Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Dietitian Life. We tell you about our weeks. Peter's had a quite interesting week. Mine, not so much.
Yours is always busy though, so it's my turn to obviously have some excitement.
Peter's turn. Over to you.
Yeah. So I travelled down south. Yes. For
How far south?
2 plane trips.
To where?
So I went to Wagga to go and visit some practitioners down there. So drove to Albury twice. I did some clinic shadowing and some other home visits as well, which was really good. Went for a run, you would have seen on Insta. Failed miserably. Tried to just take it outside of the clinic and try and talk to people and just hang out and have fun, which
You're
I
being
think
so obscure.
is good.
She went for a run with one of our dietitians and she spanked her. Our dietitian killed her. So
Well, I thought it would be a really good opportunity for us to just chat and hang out, and it was good. I thought I had it in the bag. Like I said, I rang Tyson. This chick, we used to do some marathons, which is why I suggested it in the first place. And she killed me. And then when I looked at the profile at the end, it was literally just like that. And
like, what are you talking about? What's that?
so
Profile of what?
get on Strava, all right, Tyson?
No one knows the friggin' hell you're talking about.
I bet you do. All you Strava segments out there.
Now, yeah.
So pretty much mountain like that, and that is what we ran up, and it ended up being 7Ks. So it was good fun though.
How long did it take you?
I don't know, 40 minutes or something like that.
Pretty slow.
The down was obviously pretty quick. But yeah, no, it's always good to just chill out, have a good time, make a fool of yourself. So that was really good. Gave us a really good opportunity to hang out. She baked muffins, and I enjoyed those till comes home. I ended up getting to sit on a couple of consults as well. I suppose some take homes from that that I think I shared on Instagram. On the gram, yeah. Was around trying to give people really useful, valuable content to take home.
Every single time.
100%, yeah. And listening to the client and responding to the client's needs and wants. So the dietitian and I were talking a lot about, say, clients being referred for, hypertension and weight, and they've turned up at your door and they're having issues with lactose intolerance, or they've got bloat, or they're constipated, or something just completely different to what that original referral was for. And then as a dietitian, what do you actually do? So if you've got a referral for a particular condition and that majority of that content you've talked about is nothing to do with it, what do you do in that situation? And
What do you do?
I guess I think it's quite important that you acknowledge the reason for why they came to see you in the first place, but also the client-centered approach, which we talk about all the time, means we do need to obviously listen to the client and deal with whatever conditions and problems they're struggling with at the time. I'm a big believer that, though, when we clean up someone's diet, we essentially work towards improving their health anyway, and conditions like hypertension, maybe weight, even say impaired fasting glucose, we would generally work and fix aspects of that diet and clean up the basic diet at the same time. And it doesn't mean that in that initial appointment you need to address every single comorbidity that they have, but you could potentially then work on that in their subsequent appointments once you've got a little bit of a buy-in with them and you've fixed a couple of those conditions. The other aspect is, say, when you're communicating back to the GP, you can document and support the reason for why maybe at that appointment you didn't initially focus on those conditions.
On what conditions?
So it might have been the ones that they've referred for. But that you will also then discuss on those matters in those subsequent appointments. So, I mean, you might feel quite differently.
So what did you tell her to do?
So focus on what the client come in presenting with, and their major health concern.
Presenting with, as in what the client had, in terms of what the referral was for, or what the client said?
Yeah, what the client wants to get from the appointment, essentially.
So what the lactose intolerance?
Yeah, 100%. If they're presenting with something, and a lot of the time we should be asking, so what can I do for you today? And majority of the time the client often hasn't seen the reason for why they've been referred. And there's a massive assumption that when a person is referred to go and see a dietitian, that they're referred to see us and that we're going to talk about weight loss. can guarantee in private practice it's about 80% of who we are seeing, and it'll always be that sort of tacked on to other comorbidities. So asking the client what they want to get from today, and if it is something completely different to what the GP has referred, and I think it's really important that you at least acknowledge what they want to get out of it, and at the same time also what they're being referred for. The GP knows the client, they know what medications they're on, they've known them for a lot longer than you have, so they'll obviously have a very good understanding of what medically we need to focus on. So it is important that we do touch on those. It doesn't mean that it has to be directly touched on. So you can do, like I said to you before, you can improve their diet at the same time as maybe working on what they wanted to get out of that appointment. So that's the conversation that I had with the dietitian. Other things we talked about was personal biases and how they might impact on what you say to a client and how you feel about things. I think these days we're thrown into dietetics in a very challenging space with all social media platforms and all the non-nutrition advice that's being thrown around. And I think early on we kind of faced with having to make hard decisions about how we feel about things. I think we've talked about it before around bariatric surgery and whether we think someone should get it. Also whether we should be pushing for weight loss if someone's struggling with the mental health side of things, if they've tried every diet under the sun and the alike. And some of the struggles, I guess, that you might also have, and I suppose we probably had at times as well, is where we personally sit on a particular diet or a particular issue, and whether that should actually come at all into the consult. So if at times we're asked, what do you think? Should we as practitioners be saying what we think? Or do we need to kind of stand back and, I suppose, be an avoider, but at that same time obviously giving you advice?
Do you?
It's a hard thing, I guess.
I don't give a shit. So I'm unemotional about it. So if someone says something, I'll tell them plainly if there's no evidence to suggest that what they're saying is correct. Then, like, if they just come in like, oh, I want to try this, what do you think? Then I would give them an unadulterated, no personal bias view of it. But if they're already doing something, then they're already going to come in with their own personal bias, and then you've got to manage that. But I think it's folly to paint everyone under the same brush. So if it's like, just like you're talking about the way you approach clients, so if it's weight management, which is the most contentious issue of all right now, with Hayes' approach and traditional weight management approaches, which supposedly don't work long term, I think, again, that's personal bias, and a lot of people who practice Hayes will go, no, everyone's Hayes. There's no traditional approach, and they'll very openly say such things. We've kind of talked about how we do a lot of traditional stuff and it works, and we can get it working long term. I think the traditional approach isn't necessarily what we do. It's just, if we use a meal plan and focus on weight, doesn't necessarily mean that's traditional. It's just what's getting results for the client. But
yeah, and I guess do we need to have this almighty position where we stand when it comes to everything that is about health and weight and diets and all the above?
And there's so much guilt.
Yeah.
In our profession.
Should we be holier than thou
gross
as well?
Just people putting other people down for the whole, whatever way they approach it. It's just, if someone does traditional, it's almost like I view it as like being vegan in the community. If someone's really vocal vegan that tells everyone that they shouldn't eat meat, it becomes that real emotive personal bias around it. And
it's got massive buy-in these days as well.
Yeah.
So I think maybe traditional dietetics in that sense, whatever that is now having a massive shift. And I think that's probably then causing us as dietitians and obviously new grads to be really unsteady in their own views about the way they feel about things as well. And obviously not just dietetics, but everybody really. It's that guilt about, I'm going to get a plastic straw and drink my Coke Zero in my non-recyclable can and then throw this into the ocean and then feel bad about it. It's just everything obviously that we do, there's got to be that element of we should be doing that, or there's guilt associated with it. So I think this is no different. Whether we need to establish a personal decision about the way we feel in relation to dietetics, I don't think you do. I think you need to be confident in helping the client to what end that might
it should be clean. I think it should be clean slate every time you see a new client. Like whether it be Hayes traditional, bloody some other random diet, whatever. I think having any personal bias makes you less of a good practitioner than what it is if you...
And I think starting off as a new graduate as well, you've got to be open to every single situation that comes at you.
So many new grads now.
And they just want to narrow themselves, and I understand the reason for doing that, particularly in dietetics. You want to be seen to be the expert or the best or only good at some conditions and really just focus on that.
I'm sure some people at unis are telling you, you need to go niche because there's not enough work if you just go broad. You're going to get work if you go niche. It's just like, yeah, maybe, but you are going to be a shitter practitioner than if you had just gone broad. Like overall, at the end of the day, in 5 years' time, what's going to happen? Like, what if you lose that first job? Or what if that niche doesn't work? What if it dies? Like, what if you started...
What if everybody else is doing that niche as well too, and then what makes you different? And when you come out, there is no way you can actually focus on particular conditions because you've only ever seen them maybe 5 times, or even that for some of them in placement. So how can you even say that?
And obviously you guys should know, if you don't already, like dietetics changes constantly because of the new research. So what's currently buzzing now might quickly fall on its head. So
and reading one research paper or 2 does not make you an expert in it. You have to have years of guaranteed repeated exposure plus the ongoing research. And success. Applying and utilising clinical practice guidelines, reading research. So it's just vast.
Yeah, and microbiome is like the new thing coming up, which everyone's talking about, and I think it's really important.
Yeah, like
but we don't really know where it's eventually going to lead. Like, it could be amazing and the thing that we all focus on in 5 years' time, but you don't know that. So I think pigeonholing yourself at any stage of your career is probably not necessarily the right thing to do if you want to be the best practitioner. But at the same time, you could be exceptional at a certain clinical condition and you can just constantly upskill on that. But that's the thing, it's about upskilling on that and learning new things that come out, not focusing on, this is what I did, this is what I'm always going to do. Because that's just going to be shit.
Yeah, 100%. So on that, what have I done? I went to Canberra as well. So
tell me about your course.
After I finished, so I went to the ASCIA conference.
What's that?
The Australian Society of Clinical Immunology and Allergy. I'm like, where am I at? And it was a week-long conference with GPs, specialists and the like. There was a dietetics component, so it was a 2-day. We've talked about the prerequisites for the course, which I already said was tests they had to pass, submit those in. They were quite challenging. So maybe there was around 50 max dietitians there. One student. So it's interesting the type of dietitians that were attracted to it. Majority had been practicing for 5 to 10 years. And then the other 50% was probably 10 plus as well. So it was really good. So we're in a room of interesting company with a wide range of experiences. So there's a lot of tertiary hospital dietitians there that have been there for a long time. So they've seen lots of trends and lots of changes. And it was really cool to be able to see the new research, particularly the LEAP study, the one that was done on peanuts, actually changing practice guidelines, and it's taken a long time to do that. The LEAP study was quite a few years ago now, and also takes a long time to collect that data as well, particularly the infant feeding guidelines. Obviously everybody knows how they've changed, that we don't want to obviously restrict allergen exposure in the first years of life, so that is a big change. There's also new ways in which they manage non-IgE and IgE-mediated allergies, so they were talking a lot about that. Big emergence of tick anaphylaxis, which is pretty interesting as well, and we do see a decent amount of it here.
Tick?
Yeah. So in Queensland, obviously, there's a lot of ticks. North Shore, Sydney as well has a lot of tick anaphylaxis, and then concurrent meat allergy as a consequence of that.
Meat allergy?
Yeah, I'm not joking.
Meat,
red meat. Have you not heard of that? So I've probably seen maybe 5 clients since I've been up here on the coast that actually do have meat allergy after a tick bite.
after a tick bite.
Yeah, so you need to have it at the same time.
I've definitely never seen a tick. I've never seen anyone come in for a tick bite allergy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Why did they come and see a dietitian?
Well, because they can't eat protein, a lot of it, and any products that contain meat. So even gelatin and
so prior to the tick bite, did they have an allergy to meat? So they're smashing meat, loving medium rare steaks, get a tick.
And then the tick, what the tick actually does is it converts the carbohydrate into an allergic protein, and then the body reacts to it, and then all of a sudden they've developed an allergy.
I'm interested, but I know that that's going to go down a huge rabbit hole, so I probably won't probe anymore. But
yeah, so it's the only one that actually is a carbohydrate-based alpha-gal, and you can actually test that on blood tests as well too.
What, whether or not you're allergic to ticks?
Yeah, the protein that they put in, because pretty much what ticks do, burrow their head into you and they excrete saliva. And they also talked about the appropriate way to remove a tick as well as not, because obviously then you leave the tick in there and it can just continue to make you really sick. So no, I've never had a tick. My brother has, our dogs have. Yeah, but no, not here.
I've had a tick.
Yeah.
And quite a few when I was younger, getting about the cane fields.
Yeah, and obviously with any allergy, the body needs to be in the right conditions to establish that allergy, like anything.
What's the best thing you got out of the conference?
Probably just reinforcement around particular practices and sort of clients that I've seen over the years, and maybe ways I could have changed what I did or modified my recommendations. Can I have two?
Yeah, go.
And then the other one would be the reality, I guess, that regional dietitians have compared to those that are in tertiary hospitals, and how best practice sometimes is deviated away from that best practice guideline, because in reality you may not have the tools available, you may not have the specialists available, you might not have the medical tests to do to obviously confirm and exclude a lot of things, and where we sit from a professional practice point of view to where we where we sit on best practice guidelines. So, and there was a lot of conversation around, well, that's all well and good, but I'm in Orange or I'm in Walker. It takes 6 months for my client to get to see an allergist, and they're like, do you want me to let them pour out blood and continue to have these reactions? So yeah, and that was the real conversations. So it was good to have that banter. And
you got a new qualification,
yeah? Yeah, so I'll get my certificate. Had to get 77 plus, and both exams were at the end of the day. The first one was a bitch. The second one was actually pretty easy, so I don't really know whether I just consolidated the information a little bit better, but the second day was more on non-IgE mediated versus allergies and food intolerance, so chemicals and FODMAPs and things like that.
Cool. And since this is getting quite a long dietitian line, but pretty packed, I'm probably not going to talk too much about myself, but I did a lot of social media stuff, background website stuff, website development, talking to digital media crew, my social media dietitians and stuff. Did some catching up with some of the organisations that we work with, so talking to the big head honchos of the different organisations, figuring out what the plan is, optimising things, talking to different practitioners about optimising their workloads, getting clinics, negotiating contracts.
Did you fly anywhere?
I can't remember.
You did?
Perth.
Yeah.
I went to Perth, did some shadowing there, actually gave a lot of advice on the Lifers closed group page about that. So I won't rehash it here, but yeah, unfortunately didn't get to do everything that I wanted to there because one of the practitioners was sick, but that's all cool. I got to shadow 2 of them at least. So yeah, go check out what I'd said. I think it was quite valuable. A lot of people kind of reacted to it on the closed group. And yesterday was my birthday and we launched Comp. So if you get to see this, I don't know if you will get to see this, but we'll be meeting with a few people privately, and they can ask whatever they want and get a leg up on the rest of you.
So clinical stuff you can just send my way. Tyson, anything to do with business, you can hit him up.
And that's pretty much all we're good for.
Okay.
All right, cool. I think that's it. Boop.